Hey guys, OJ Albina here. Bring you guys our BBR Season 2 Week 4 battle against Liv and her New Orleans Saint Snow. She recently took over for 6-Foot Hacks. She's actually using his old team this week. And, obviously getting this game so we can get uploaded. And she'll have a new team the week after. So, obviously, she's probably a little uncomfortable with this build. But, shouts to her for getting me the game and stuff like that. And, obviously being understating with that kind of stuff. So, we get an upload out today. But one quick mention I do want to say. Unfortunately, this week will be a post-com. Shouts out to Liv. She actually gave me the footage for her game because what happened with my footage was I was kind of going through my computer. Let me move that. Going through my computer, kind of cleaning things out, making sure, my computer wasn't super backed up. And I actually deleted the footage and the team builder for this week's battle, like the live com and stuff like that. So, unfortunately, this week will be a post-com. Hopefully, weeks going forward, we should be fine. I apologize this last GDL was a post-com because... my audio didn't work, and then this one's supposed to come because I deleted the footage. So hopefully going forward, we should be fine in getting the games in up and on time with, live com stuff. But I want to at least get the video out and things like that. So we are going to be doing a post-com from her perspective. So I appreciate it for her for passing the footage to me and all that good stuff. But yeah, really quick before I jump into the team build to give you guys a background on what we're bringing, I do want to mention that only a good, 30 to 40% of you guys are actually subscribed that are watching the video. So if you're here watching, you might as well drop a sub. It really does help me out. It's completely free, and it helps us push closer and closer to that goal of 400. And I would really, really appreciate it if you're here to, support us on that. But with that being said, let's do a quick little team builder just so you can see what we're bringing and why we're bringing it. I'm so sunburned. I just realized how badly sunburned. I went to the beach yesterday, and look at the, oh my goodness. I went to the beach yesterday, and I totally forgot to put on sunscreen because it was cold, and I didn't think about it. But, obviously, you should still do it, but I'm an idiot. But let's jump into it. I'm recording this day of, so I'll try to get it done pretty quick here. So, our team, if you did forget, consists of Zarude, Pelipper, Kingdra, Reuniclus, Silvally, Doublade, Toxicroak, Cinccino, Stunfisk, and Clefairy, while our opponent's team consists of Gengar, Melmetal, Cobalion, Rotom Heat, Slowking, Licky Licky, Runerigus, Sneasel, Tangela, and Kadabra. Now, biggest starts right off the bat. One is going to be Gengar. I don't have Gengar switching, whatsoever. I think Dual Status plus Focus Blast just demolishes me. It's actually terrifying how good that Mon is versus my team, so we're going to have to be very careful on that. Melmetal is actually a pretty big issue. It's hard for my team to, nothing on my team really OHKOs it, so it can potentially at least trade 1-for-1 against a good majority of my squad. Slowking is very tough for my team to break. I won't lie, my rain matchup is actually really good. If you just took Slowking out of the equation, I think Kingdra 6-0'd this team. Well, I guess Licky Licky is a decent check as well, but Kingdra 6-0'd this team. But Slowking is a big issue, and my team doesn't deal with it phenomenally, in all honesty, besides Zarude, but I don't think Zarude is very good in this matchup at all. It has a bad speed tier versus a lot of things, and Scarf doesn't break through the things I want to. I can't really safety lock into a move, so spoilers, we're not even bringing Zarude this week, so we're going to have to be, very calculated in how we break through that. Slowking, Rotom Heat, big nuisance for my team. I don't switch into the stabs very well, even with the rain. And Sneasel can be a pretty big offensive threat. But let's go ahead and jump into the team that we're rocking out with this week. First off, you're going to see our Silvally normal. Rock out with the Assault Vest once again. RKS System is its ability, High Voice, Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, and U-Turn. EVs wise, you got 132 HP, 124 special attack, and max Spadef with a Calm Nature. Now, this thing is going to be our Gengar check. I believe we can live +2 Focus Blast after Rocks. I don't remember if that's Life Orb or just regular or anything like that. But I know for a fact we can live it, and this is honestly my only pivot into that monster, in all honesty. It's a good special sponge otherwise, but it's pretty expendable otherwise. It's much like when we played Steve week 2, that we don't have good offensive ghost switching, so I feel like this is something nice just to keep my opponent from locking into a Spec Shadow Ball, because, the rest of my team, I resist Zarude, and I'm not even bringing Zarude, so I'll have to be very careful about that thing, but I do think that Silvally normal is a good pivot into that thing, at least, keeping it at bay and things like that. Next up, we got John Jr. the Toxicroak, rocking out with the Payapa Berry. Dry Skin is its ability, Focus Blast, Dark Pulse, Vacuum Wave, and Nasty Plot. EVs wise, we got 180 HP, 4 defense, max special attack, 12 speed def, and 60 speed with a modest nature. This Pokemon is phenomenal in the end game versus my opponent. If you look at their team, minus Gengar and Slowking, nothing wants to take a Focus Blast at all. And I guess Runerigus, but we do have Dark Pulse for those things. The +2 does a lot. Pineapple Berries, be able to live a Psychic from Gengar, more so a Psychic or a Psyshock from Slowking, which I think is very, very important. Other than that, this thing is a phenomenal breaker in this matchup, like a really good breaker. We don't really need the Poison Stab for much, besides like Tangela, and a +2 Focus Blast is still blowing that backwards anyway, so I figured that was pretty nice in this, specific instance, provided we can hit our Focus Blast, unlike last week if you saw that really unfortunate game. This thing actually could be in a really good position in the end game to win, or just a great early game breaker if we find the opportunity. Next up, we got Bradley, the Kings, rocking out with a super cool set as you're going to see. Not what you would think in this matchup, at the very least, in my opinion. It's going to be a Scope Lens set with the Sniper ability, Surf, Draco Meteor, Focus Energy, and Agility. 116 HP, 164 attack, special attack, and 228 speed with a modest nature. Now, this thing is here to really lure in that Slowking and potentially break it down with some crits off that Draco Meteor and the Sniper, the Focus, and the Scope Lens. We have Agility to still be able to outspeed things, and this is going to be my main win con. If I can get some chip on some things, this set absolutely demolishes my opponent. Crit Dracos and Crit Surfs are blowing pretty much everything backwards with a tiny bit of chip. So if we can position this thing for the end game, we'll be in a great spot. Next up, we got Pelipper with the Heavy Duty Boots, Drizzle is its ability, Scald, Roost, Toxic, and U-Turn. EVs-wise, we got Max HP, 84 Defense, 108 Special Attack, 20 Speed Def, and 44 Speed with a bold nature. Now, this thing goes pretty crazy for my opponent. They don't have great range switches. It forces a Toxic on something like a Slowking. It gives me good momentum, and it gives me a decent Melmetal check, which is honestly what it's here for. And it blushes the fact that we might be supposed to win Kingdra, which is kind of what I'm hoping for in this particular matchup. After that, we also have Doublade rocking out with the Eviolite, No Guard as its ability, Sword Stance, Shadow Snake, Sacred Sword, and Shadow Claw. 244 HP, 140 attack, and 124 speed with an Adamant nature. It's a good Melmetal check. It's a good potential breaker of the Slowking, and it does really, really well offensively, and it kind of just helps us hold the Melmetal at bay, which is awesome. Another great late game win con if we can position it correctly and get some chip on that Rotom. And then lastly, we got Stunfisk rocking out the Rocky Helmet, Static ability, Earth Power Discharge, Stealth Rock, and Toxic. 244 HP, 92 Defense, 84 Special Attack, 52 Speed F, and 36 Speed with a bold nature. Another great Melmetal check to force some Rocky Helmet chip on that thing. It's a good rocker, and it forces some Toxic on some annoying things like the Rotom, which is obviously really nice. But yeah, with that being said, that's the team. Let's jump right into the game. Alright guys, here we are with the battle. So, like I said, unfortunately going to be a post-com from Liv's perspective this week. Again, we just didn't have the, correct footage and stuff like that. I accidentally deleted it because I'm an idiot. But show's got to go on. We got to upload. So, as you're going to see, the 6 that Liv elected to bring, she went with the Cobalion, the Rotom Heat. Let me pause it. Cobalion, the Rotom Heat, the Sneasel, the Melmetal, the Gengar, and the Slowking. Now, right off the bat, biggest threats to us, obviously, like I said, Melmetal is very annoying. This Gengar is terrifying, and the Slowking is so annoying, especially because it's Assault Vest. It's going to be really tough for us to break down, but other than that, I think we do have a decent squad versus Liv. If I remember correctly, I think I led off with my Silvally, if I'm, remembering this correctly, just because of the fact that, I didn't want to lead poorly against a potential Gengar and stuff like that. Let me zoom forward just so we can get there. I do have it sped up a little bit because this is a post-com, and as it can kind of drag on if I'm going to be sitting here for 20 minutes, commentating over a game that already happened and stuff like that. It's going to be kind of hard. So, no, I'm going to lead off with my Stunfisk just because I want to get up rocks as early as possible. You're going to see a Sneasel lead, and this is unfortunate because I don't have the best switch-ins to Sneasel in all honesty. I really don't have great switch-ins to it. You're going to see it's just 4 attacks, Life Orb, and it's really tough for me to, try and pivot around and things like that. Though, I know that my Pelipper can live any 2 hits that are not banded, and if it's banded, I can pivot around between my Doublade and my Pelipper pretty decently. I know I'll live 2 Life Orb knockoffs into each other, though I might not live a Life Orb knockoff into a nice knockoff Crash or anything like that. But I'm going to go into my defensive Pelipper just because I feel like it's my best check overall in this specific instance. The Icicle Crash is going to come out, and it's going to do a lot to me. However, it's not going to be able to knock me out. We're going to see that it's Life Orb. This is honestly completely fine, as this next turn, I'm kind of debating, do I Scald, do I, U-turn, get some slow momentum off, or do I try and roost off this damage? I think I elect to roost because this Crash and a knock shouldn't kill me because it's Life Orb, and I want to, potentially keep this thing healthy, and I know once I don't have my item, the knocks are going to do much less. Though we will have to be careful because now, obviously, the rain is up and things like that. So, the boots are gone, so we obviously can't, pivot in on hazards as well and things like that. As another Icicle Crash is going to come out, we are definitely going to live this hit, However, what I'm going to do right here is go for a U-turn. I figured that they want to switch out that turn just because of the fact they saw that I could live the crash into the knock and things like that. But regardless, we get a good amount of chip off on said Sneasel, and chip on the thing is actually really good for our end game with, what do you call it? Our end game with Doublade and things like that. Because Doublade looks amazing provided we get chip on the Road of Heat. It actually looks awesome. So right here, I am going to switch out. As they go in the Toxicroak, I'm going to switch out into my Toxicroak, and they're going to go into their Gengar. This is completely fine because I believe I do end up clicking Nasty Plot this turn. I didn't think the Sneasel would want to stay in and get picked off with the Vacuum Wave. And what it's going to allow me to do is throw off a big Dark Pulse, and I will be able to trade for this thing and at least knock it out. Because I know nothing can kill me unless it's a Spec Psychic, and I don't expect Spec Psychic to come off. I don't even think it's great coverage versus me as a whole. As right here, I am just going to click a Dark Pulse. As they do click Destiny Bond, so they got me there. I was more so terrified of like offensive variants. They didn't want to play around that because Shadow Ball would 2-hit KO me. But this is completely fine. While my Toxicroak was amazing in this matchup, it's all good because of the fact that I can at least get rid of this Gengar, which was probably the biggest threat to my team by far. Like, bar none. It was terrifying versus me. So what I'm going to go for, they're going to, you know, kind of pick what they wanted to go into on this double down, things like that. Which is going to be the Sneasel, because obviously that makes sense. It puts on a lot of offensive pressure on my team. Like, a lot of offensive pressure. As I am going to go into my Silvally, more so because of the fact that I know I don't really need this thing at this point, especially because the Gengar is gone. I can kind of just stay in and get a free U-turn off, which will pick this off or gain me momentum in some way, shape, or form, which is obviously really, really clutch in this specific instance. So right here, I am going to click U-turn as they do click Fake Out. So obviously my turn is going to be pretty null and void as we lag there a little bit. I apologize. But this Life Orb Fake Out into pretty much anything should not knock us out. I think even a low kick at this point would have made it to where we could live it. Excuse me. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. As this knockoff definitely isn't going to knock us out, and we're at least going to be able to take out the Sneasel. And again, I'm completely fine trading my Silvally and at least keeping it in the back for Sack Fodder, because its only purpose is its literal only purpose was for the Gengar. If Gengar was still there, I obviously probably couldn't let it take that damage, but because it was, I definitely can a lot easier, which is really, really nice for us in this instance. So it's going to give, you know, Liv some offensive momentum here and give them the switch initiative, because I do have to go into a bond first, obviously because of my U-turn, which means Pelipper is going to come out, which allows a pretty free Rotom Heat, or allows, honestly, pretty much Rotom Heat or potentially a Slowking, but I can potentially roost up on the Slowking, which is really nice, or at least get a Toxic off on it. So Rotom Heat was definitely the best play because they know I'm not Scarf or anything like that, and they can obviously threaten me immensely with any hit, and I don't switch in well with this thing. So they are going to go for a big Thunder. Don't have great switch-ins, but I do want to keep my Pelipper just because of the fact that it allows me to, you know, get the rain and really boost up my surfs with my Kingdra. As a Thunder comes out, drops right on my Silvally's head. Crit definitely didn't matter. We're going to go down right there. Which is obviously, you know, not the biggest deal in the world, like I said, because that was kind of my designated sack fodder at this point. But what it's going to allow me to do, it's going to allow me to go into my Kingdra, which is going to allow me to, in turn, throw off a really big hit on my opponent, just because of the fact that, I mean, look at their team. They have the Slowking, but that really doesn't take on the Critdra set well, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for at this specific point in time. So out goes the Rotom, which is, again, completely fine. I believe I just threw off a Surf this turn, because I know I can actually set up the Focus Energy and Agility on the Slowking, which is really nice. We get a crit right there, which might have tipped off that we were sniper damage, but honestly, it's completely fine just because it's Zap Cannon. I'm just not saying she had Zap Cannon. That would have been really unfortunate if that hit me. But what it's going to allow me to do is set up a Focus Energy. I know I'm not 2-hit KO by Psychic, especially if they're a little bit more bulky, so we are going to throw a big Focus Energy right there, and potentially just punch a giant hole through my opponent's team. As you see, that's definitely not a 2-hit KO. We're going to be able to potentially drop a Draco right here and do a ton of damage to whatever wants to come in. Like an absolute ton. And because of the Focus Energy plus the Scope Lens, we will be critting every single move we throw off, including, you know, obviously all of our Dracos and our Surfs afterwards. So we're in a pretty good spot right here at this point in time. So we're going to at least be able to break through my opponent really, really, really well. So I'm going to throw off a big Draco on this incoming Cobalion, and you're going to see this is going to do so much damage. That does a ridiculous amount to this Cobal, which is obviously really, really nice for us. Though this was definitely Liv's least useful member. I will say that for sure. What I'm going to be able to do right here is just set up an Agility, because I know this thing won't knock me out in one hit, which is obviously really, really nice. And I'll be able to Agility up and outspeed everything in the back, which I think is really important. And potentially be able to do a lot of damage in return. So Stones are going to go up. I'm going to click agility as they do get up the rocks. I couldn't really prevent that either way. If I was faster, obviously, I probably would have just knocked this thing out because there isn't anything really faster than me other than the Rotom anyways. But regardless, I'm just going to throw off a big Surf right here and be able to knock out this Cobalion. And we're going to be in a good position to really break through my opponent's team, like I said. So we get the crit right there, obviously. I kind of forgot I was Sniper for a second there when I said we got the crit. But it's going to put us in a pretty good spot for this thing to really break through. And we're looking in a pretty decent position, as you can see. So out comes the Slowking. This is completely fine because I know I can really break through this thing and at least, 2-hit KO it, to say the very least. Is we're going to throw off a big Draco first. Be able to bring this thing down really low, revealing that it's most definitely Assault Vest, because actually non-AP Slowking had a chance to, pretty much die to that. As another Cyclist is going to come off, it's not going to be enough to knock us out, as I am just going to throw off another Draco. I thought about potentially going for a Surf, not to risk the miss, but it was a roll from there depending on their investment, so I did want to just go off the Draco and, get that guaranteed KO and be able to take out this Slowking, because that really does help the rest of our team. It makes our Slowking, makes our Stunfisk plus Doublade endgame a lot more possible. So right there, we're going to get a lot of damage off. Next outcome is going to come the Melmetal, and this is completely fine. I don't have anything to switch into this. I can't really switch out right here just because of the fact that I know I don't outspeed the Rotom most likely if it's max speed. Outside of, having this agility up, I don't ever get another chance to set up, and we have, maybe one more rock switch in, if that. I don't even remember the exact HP number, but we're going to get a lot of damage off on the Melmetal. Unfortunately, not knock it out, but enough damage to really put a giant hole through my opponent's team, which is obviously really nice. Now, we're in a pretty tough spot, though, because I will say we do have a really tough time getting through that Rotom Heat. Like, a very, very tough time getting through that thing. It's a big, big nuisance to us at this point, but we're going to be able to potentially break through it with the likes of, our Doublade putting on a lot of pressure on it, and the rest of our team potentially doing well against it. So the reason I go Doublade here, I go Doublade because obviously, let me find my mouse and pause it. I go Doublade here because I figured it was my best, middle ground option. What I wanted to do is, at this point, I thought the only way I really lose is if this is sub Nasty Plot Rotom. And my best odds versus a sub Nasty Plot Rotom are if I go into my Doublade, I set up a Swords Dance right here. I know I'm obviously knocked out by Rotom regardless of what I do with that Overheat. So what I'm going to do is Swords Dance up and then be able to take out this Melmetal in the subsequent turn afterwards with pretty much any move in my arsenal, obviously, which is really nice. And what it does is if I'm at +2 with my Doublade, I'm much less likely to be sub-fodder for a Rotom Heat. And if they go for it and, obviously I can start breaking them down a bunch, we'll be in a much better position than otherwise. If I wouldn't have Stunfisk and knock this thing out, then Nasty Plot Rotom can come in, it can set up a Nasty Plot and kind of just win. But if it's not sub Nasty Plot and it's, just regular Nasty Plot stabs and then maybe like a Volt Switch or something like that, we can honestly force that thing to overheat in our face, drop down to -2, and then potentially my Stunfisk can take it on with Toxic and things like that. So we're honestly in a position where if it is sub Nasty Plot Rotom, we probably do end up losing in this endgame unless they miss an overheat or two. But if not, we've put ourselves in a position to win, if that makes any sense at all. So here I am going to go for a Swords Dance. I know this thing cannot knock me out with a Banded Earthquake no matter what. And it's not even banded. You're going to see that bounces off. That's not even a 2-hit KO after rocks because of how bulky Doublade is. And this turn afterwards, I'm just going to be able to pick this thing off with a Sacred Sword. Now, I didn't know this thing was Quick Claw in the game, which was insane. But I'm really glad that didn't pop, obviously. Because like a Quick Claw and then like a crit could have really potentially been super, super obnoxious. But now out comes the Rotom. And this is kind of the situation I kind of wanted to put myself in. But as you see, it's sub Nasty Plot. We'll see. I'm going to go for Shadow Sneak to get some last-ditch damage off. Because after that, a sub, if they subbed after that, I'd be able to break it with Shadow Sneak. And I believe they would have been out of range of another sub. But they are just going to throw off an Overheat. At this point, they're at -2. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is fine. But then I see the left. Shit. This is totally sub Nasty Plot. And obviously, as you guys can see, Liv's moves, it's definitely sub Nasty Plot. Now, if it wasn't, I think I was in a position to win. Because this thing was at -2. It would have to really Nasty Plot to do any damage to me at this point. If it wasn't, obviously, since it's at -2, and I could Toxic it and potentially pivot around until where the Toxic would take it out. But it does reveal to be sub. And I'm going to click Toxic. And yeah, that's going to be really rough for us, unfortunately. 2 discharges does break this thing sub, but I just don't have much to break this thing sub. I almost brought potentially like Scald or something like that on it, which would have been amazing here, obviously, and I think we would have won the game if we did have anything other than Rocks and Toxic, but we're going to be forced to kind of spam the discharge right here, so I'm going to speed it up because this endgame, unfortunately isn't going to really benefit us all too well, as another nasty plot's going to come out. Now this Rotom is back up to +2, which means its overheats are doing a lot more damage to us, unfortunately. I'm going to throw off another discharge, as it does break the sub, but this is going to allow another sub to come out, and at this point, unless they miss the overheats, things are not looking too good for your hero, unfortunately. As another sub is going to come out, I'm going to discharge. They got to miss a lot of overheats at this point to really potentially be able to lose, and we're going to be in a pretty tough spot. They're going to have to pretty much run out of overheats due to like losing PP and stuff like that, and missing like 4 of them. But another overheat's going to come out. This is going to do a ridiculous amount to my, what do you call it? My Stunfisk. It's actually going to knock it out with a crit, though I think that kind of just sped it up the inevitable, as I really didn't have any outs in this endgame at this point because of the fact that it was sub nasty plot. It just kind of put me out of my misery faster, as I'm going to die to rocks with my Pelipper. I had that potential in the back as a potential turn to waste a turn of poison if I did get that poison off on the Rotom, but obviously that was never going to happen with the sub nasty plot. And unfortunately, we are going to drop this game 1-0 to live. She played this game great. It's really unfortunate because I do think we had a great matchup. I think the sub nasty plot Rotom set was great, and she positioned it phenomenally to win the end game. So obviously, huge shouts out to her for that. I think that was a great bring versus my team in particular, especially just because I didn't really deal with the dual stabs very well at all in this specific instance. So fortunately, we're going to drop. I'm glad to see that the sniper Critdra really put in a lot of work, and I'm hoping we can bounce back. We're starting off to a really rough start. We're 1-3 right now, and that's if you know me, that's unacceptable in my eyes. It's absolutely awful, and we really need to kind of step things up, speed it up, and get things going, because I'm not too happy with that result up to this point this season. So hopefully we can kind of, you know, end our dry spell on Wi-Fi, because we've been having a lot of trouble in this format so far this gen. Despite performing phenomenally on Showdown, the Wi-Fi is kind of eluded me up to this point. So we're going to have to really tighten it up and hopefully do better going forward. GG's Liv, definitely go check her out. She's a great content creator, she's a great player. She's kicked her ass the last 2 times we played her in the last 2 weeks. So definitely go give her a look. She obviously knows what she's doing and all that good stuff. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, drop a like. And like I said before, if you're new here, be sure to drop a sub. It helps us reach our goal of 400, and I would really appreciate your support. But yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Later.